awesome.
Yes.
All right, so with that, we're going to jump into our Focus Attack. We have had a hell of a weekend, at least some of us, had a full weekend. We had, of course, the Street Fighter 6 beta go down, and a lot of things came out of it, man. It was I'll talk about my experiences, but we had some new experiences. We have some new combos. Nothing really changed in terms of battle adjustments. We've got some what I'm drinking right here in my cup, some tea. There's just been a bunch of talk post, a first tournament, especially a large paying out tournament, one that pays out a bit more than most tournaments usually do for a major at times. That went down this weekend, and it's left a lot of people, hankering for more. The game's 6 months away. But for some people, it was only about 6 clicks away. So let's get into that. So I got back into the beta. I think I started playing it on Friday. And I think this time, because I remember playing Jury so much, it wasn't so much like I had to spend the first day kind of like not relearning or like learning the system again. Like I kind of had a good idea. We covered it in previous shows, right? How DI is working, how parry's been working. This time around, it was more about like the tempo or the cadence of this Street Fighter cadence. This was what I was told to me, because the biggest thing I had to deal with was like, my turn, your turn, my turn, your turn, right? Like who gets who. In this game, it's different because, everything's so fucking negative, right? And there's like rarely anything that's positive that you can like push, right? Frame advantage, is what I'm saying. Frame advantage, not negative in a bad sense, but frame advantage is kind of like a bit of a lull here. It exists. There's definitely characters that can take advantage of it. But it isn't as free as like, crouching jab, pushing your opponent over with just like crouching jab, stepping, crouching jab and such. Like, no, you can get, blown up for that. Whiff punishing is huge. Like there was way more competition I felt online this time around. Because for one, whoever was in the original beta were already in, but then they did the other lotto, so they added more people in. So there was more people to play, right? And then the crossplay as well was the other big thing. So there was just a slew of people to play, a variety of different levels of it. But I think, like I said, for me, the biggest thing to take away was really just that cadence, was learning as to like, okay, when is it my turn? When do I do my offense? Bro, I was getting mashed the fuck out so much. And it was like, and it was pissing me off. And like, I get it. Like it's early. Who knows what the fuck's what? But like, for some reason, it just was not feeling right for me. I was like, 2 jabs here, maybe a crouching forward, right? Everyone's got a crouching forward, right? That's like the goal right now. If your character has a crouching forward, that's good. Like, get cancel into something, a fireball, something like, oh, you're already like fucking, your character's already looking pretty good. Or if you just have good normals in general, like your character's gonna be insane, because Dragon Rush is a big component to it, right? Like whiff punishing, huge, absolutely huge. But like the little fucking what'd I say? What'd I call it?
You said Dragon Rush.
I've been saying, I don't know why I keep saying Dragon. I keep saying DI, but then I keep going to Dragon. Like, just maybe because of fucking fighters.
I was
Drive.
Like,
Thank you.
Out of his mind.
Drive. Because of fucking Drive Rush, it's a big component. Whiff punish is insane. But like, it's the small little interactions that have been pissing me off, that I'm like getting jabbed out of, maybe trying to, because there's a lot of strike throw game in this right now. There's a lot of fucking strike throw game, because we don't know what's, not who has what setups, this, that, and the other. So it's like, jab you, check you, let me grab. But it's like, I was getting mashed the fuck out all the time, and I was getting annoyed, because I'm like, when is it supposed to be like the ability to change? Because like, if they could just, they're negative, they still fucking mash. I'm like, I'm losing my mind. I don't know what I'm supposed to do right now.
So you remember how I was telling you before in the first beta, I was like, man, this is fun, but I really feel like there's no respect in certain situations.
Yeah.
That like I could be plus and you're still mashing, or I'm like negative like 3, and I had no answer for those things except for like DP. Well, funny enough, as I played it to some degree and went back and looked at some video footage, we'll say, yeah, everything's works around the frame data, and that's the kind of fucked up part, is because if you're negative 3, you can always parry anyone. So that's where the real meta is going to lead to.
That was the biggest revelation for me by the end of it. Which is a bit. There was a tweet that got posted up or got sent to us by what's it called? The homie MJ. Shout outs to you. Because I also got to play in things like, I did the LI Joe tournament and shit, which we'll get into. So I got to actually just sit down and play with, people that are really sweaty about it, which is awesome. But I was like, at wit's end, I was like, bro, like, what the fuck am I missing? Like, DI, no problem. Because we were seeing more of like, jab, jab, are you DIing? Because by that third jab, if I know you're DIing, I'm going to DI you back, right? Like, we started seeing more DI checks this time around, which is great. People already adapting. I didn't hear nobody give two fucks about DI this entire weekend. Like, Have you noticed that? Did you see that in your feeds anywhere? Because I sure as hell did.
I didn't see any. I didn't see. Actually, I've seen a lot less in my feed about DI. I felt like a lot of new players were actually trying to abuse it, but they couldn't. And sometimes when they did, they were just because I watched a lot of matches. At least when my roommate was playing, I saw like a lot of moments where I'm like, wow, these players are getting like smarter even at the lower level because they're DIing in situations not when they're pressured too much, but where they're like, I think I can do it here, and it's okay to, and I'm not going to get blown up for it. And if I do, okay, it's just a good read. So it's like, I don't think people are like looking at it as like an abusable thing anymore. They're like, oh, I can get blown up for doing it, so let me just chill.
I thought I heard on Friday that Drive Impact, the focus attack thing. Yeah, I thought I heard that it was trending on Friday or Thursday night.
It could have been, but I just wasn't seeing as much complaining. So at least in my feeds, I wasn't people like going like, it's so scrubby. Like all week in that first beta, that's what we were hearing, right? DI this, DI that, this shit is broken, this needs to go away. Already by this second beta, I was like, nobody? Now it was frame data. Now it was negative, mashing, throws. Like that's what I was hearing this weekend.
Well, I was watching Chris G play all day Friday, and I saw people go in talking about it very late in the day. Like not late in the day, but there were people talking about it, asking him about, oh my gosh, how do you this? Oh, and also when I was watching James Chen, people were complaining about it, and I'm like, I literally responded to somebody. I'm like, you can just do it back. He's like, wait, what? I'm like, yeah, yeah.
Another video got posted up 7 different ways, which I think we counted 7 different ways in the show when we did the last beta as to how to counter it. And this time for me, honestly, it was checking it. DIing back. It's like if you had the reactions, bam, you just and you can macro it, right? You can macro the heavy punch and heavy kick into a single button in that game, and just you have a DI button if you need it, specifically a dedicated one in case you don't want to off chance miss one button. But I was checking it on like things like crouching jabs, buttons that I knew. Any button that's special cancelable, you can also cancel the DI. So if you're like mid string and you're like, oh my god, he's DIing, you can cancel because instead of going to fireball or something, you can go to DI. But the biggest thing that I caught myself doing more often was looking at my super meter, or rather my overdrive meter. Or is it my overdrive? Not my overdrive, but just my critical art meter and such, right? Like just because super, any level super, or your level, 1, 2, and 3, they all break the armor instantly. So just like so you can react with that. And I caught myself doing it where I would be exhausted, which I started seeing more often, or burnout, exhausted, what do you want to call it? Became more of a factor because now it's like it's open, it's open season on you. You're gonna probably maybe try to react and then forget that was not available to you.
I thought that's just no now because they changed level 1s to not be invincible anymore. I think certain
to projectiles.
Okay. So it wasn't just all.
No. It was just projectiles. We were able to do that even in beta 1. We knew that. That was common knowledge. It just wasn't used as much.
I wasn't sure if they were doing it to all of them so that they could still get blown up by Drive Impact to some degree, if depending what it kind is or how many hits it has.
No,
Drive Impact is slow as hell. Let's be real.
It is 25 plus 27 frames or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So some Tekken players say like 22 is like the sweets is like 22, 23 is where like it's pro level.
It's half a second, bro. It's half a second, damn near.
I don't know.
but yeah, no, like the supers will always be, because it's like a weird resource game. Not a weird resource. It's a resource game. It's like you have your EX that you have available up there to do your drive rush, you do your impact, you do your EXs, right? If you don't have that, you got to look at your super. If you don't have your super and that, like you really are running out of resources, then yes, you are going to be at a disadvantage. So even if you don't have the ability to DI back, Even a level 1 super will help you counter it because you can't parry it, you can't do anything, right? But they can't punish you that bad because maybe your character, maybe you did 2 calls on, being more offensive. Yes, you burnt your drive rush, but if you have a bar or beater and your opponent then starts their offense, you won't be caught slacking because you can still dip into that resource pool to counter it.
I do want to say this for the people who are getting interested in Street Fighter 6. When you hit that exhaustion point, a lot of people have started having this tendency to run away, as in like jump back, jump out, and constantly jump.
Become more defensive.
You have to remember that sometimes, I won't even say it this way. You got to remember, there's some characters in this game that have air throw. So you have to be acknowledging the fact that you jumping is probably 10 times worse than you staying on the ground and looking for that drive impact that you want to avoid. So I just wanted to make that like a disclaimer. Please don't fall into the trap thinking that jumping out of everything is going to be really good. You have quite a few characters who could just punish you really, really badly, and then they're in an advantage state. So.
You got your Chun, you got your Gaos, you got your Juries. They'll swat you right out the sky. But the other part that I also wanted to kind of emphasize is that just because you're exhausted does not mean you can't fight. Like your character all of a sudden isn't a character anymore. Sure, the frame data changes a little bit. You need to be aware of that. But you still have, if you have projectiles, you can still zone. You can still, like Meza said, you can still grab. You can still be on the offense. You can still regular grab. Remember, grabs still blow up the eye. You just have to be on the lookout because now the probabilities may be a little higher because you can't instinctively just react to it.
Look, you're Jean-Claude Van Damme at the end of Bloodsport, where you don't have any other option but to stop being defensive and just go on the offense, and you just gotta duke it out sometimes a little.
That's a hard cut right there. God damn.
You just gotta look. It's still a footsies game, you got to respect that
for sure.
So I personally, I will say this is probably, and I'm a really big advocate on Third Strike, but I'm also really, really big into Street Fighter 4. I think this might be one of my favorite Street Fighters to come out, just because it has all these different elements, and I just hope people realize it's not going to be a wash, rinse, repeat of many other Street Fighters. This has a lot of great elements, and it's like when you're fine tuning the right medicine before it goes through FDA, and you just get it just right, and it's like this is gonna help a lot of people. And I feel like Street Fighter 6 is not gonna be just a game to be like, oh, it's great. I think it's gonna help a lot of people understand how to play other fighting games in a big vacuum.
Oh yeah, for sure. So one thing, so the missing component of all this, right? If I were to take anything away from the weekend and playing the beta, the biggest missing factor that I was just like wondering was just those exchanges, right? Of like, oh, my light to your light, maybe you're trying to, just maybe step back, just walk back. Oh, got hit with crouching forward. Now they can, drive rush you. And I almost said drive rush you. And now you just lost 20%, 25%, right? Like it sucks. It's like, what do you do in those situations? Especially when you know they're mashing, right? Like when you know they're going to try to counter poke you or try to take their turn back, even when maybe they're negative or something like that. So light chains, right? So Hudson FGC, this tweet I think is going to be the big tweet that needs to circulate even more. I know it's already got 100 tweets, 500 something likes, but this is some fucking diamond level fucking knowledge here I'm about to drop on y'all. So Hudson stated right here, in Street Fighter 6, light chains, your jabs or your shorts, have gaps on block, usually between 1 to 4 frames. This means you can challenge them with things like parry, drive impact, reversal, supers, or your own 4-frame. Remember, 4-frame is the fastest normal in this game. Chain startup displays on recovery on the frame counter is because you get punish counter, punishing and trading with them, right? So, because that orange bar right there, my friends, that little fucking orange bar that says punish counter or counter over, like the amount of times I've seen the punish counter on one side or the other is insane. But this is the part that got me. This was like the missing link for me, and I only got to see glimpses of it during tournament play over the weekend. And some streamers, like I said, shout outs to MJ. Like I watched them do it a couple times because things like meaty drive rush Oki is a thing, right? I was like, where the fuck is parrying going to like fit? Where's the puzzle for parry here? Because I kind of almost like this weekend I kind of forgot a couple times outside of like, oh, you're gonna just throw projectiles? I don't have to block shit, bitch. Hold that. Like, and so, that's really it. But this is the link. This I think is gonna be the component that's gonna like shift the meta.
So it's funny because like I wasn't at this point when I was playing a lot more. I actually got to the point where doing situations where -3, where I was -3,
Mm-hmm.
I could be the one parrying because people have to jab. Like that's their
Or want
that's their
to jab,
requirement.
right? They just
that's
want to.
the
They're just like
requirement.
I need to
point
hit
where-
this.
Yeah. To the point where we were playing like this. Am I gonna jab? Are you gonna jab? Am I gonna parry? Are you going to grab? Like, am I gonna grab? Like, so it became this
Exactly.
like mental game. But this is actually, I feel like, the next step into it that you're not gonna see over normal betas. And I think because we got a second beta, we got to see people really dive a lot deeper. Because now they're in it, they know they're in it. They don't have to think about what they were like learning. They know that now they're going to be able to do these things. Because I didn't know this, but this is really interesting because now this is going to open up the door for the same situation I talked about, the -3 situation, but it's going to now be in the jab situation where people are going to have to be more mindful of doing jabs, and that's really cool. I actually like this dynamic because we talked about how parry kind of had very few uses and how it kind of seemed like it was kind of getting overlooked. It was only going to be used in certain moments, right? Kind of
Yeah.
like a Daigo moment, but you want to have it more useful than. It's almost like third strike now at this point.
That's what I'm saying. Like it's like that. It's kind of there, and I'm feeling the same way there because Third Strike does have like a lot of checking, and then if you get one good parry, it's like okay, well I took my turn back because they're just you just know the move count or the frame data at that point that you can just like if you decide to take the risk. This is technically a little easier because it's like you're not letting go of block really. You're not. You can still hold back the entire way while Third Strike was like you can already get very much rewarded for that one because you have to take that hard risk of pressing forward at the right frame, right? But if you trained yourself and you know it, then that's a different case. But for here, this is the part that I was just like, because I thought about it literally the last couple hours of the beta, I was just like, that was the only unanswered question. I'm like, bro, everything else feels great. Like I like the footsie game. I like the damage is solid. It's already developing a little bit. We got to see some of it in the tournament where it's like, oh, hey, burnout is a factor now. Like, oh, yep, he's going to go this route and cash out because now if you got burnout, now you have like more of the offense and you're advantageous. Doesn't always work out that way, but that became like, the what we were chasing, right? As towards the meta. But I was like, we only got to see glimpses of it here and there. Sometimes you got a parry in between. You got a perfect parry, someone perfect parried, and it's like, oh shit, that blows that up. I got to see it on several streamers, and it kind of didn't click till the end of the night. I was like, oh, this is the mechanic they put in to stop that, to stop this feeling, this situation from fucking occurring. It's like, well, yes, -1 to you -1 to 4 frame gap there between these jabs. Like, yes, you can jab, you'll be negative, but reversals this many frames too, and it will hit on frame 1. So it's like if you get caught lacking and thinking you can just keep mashing, you're gonna get perfect parried, which eventually someone's gonna figure out, like if they do this string, it'll end up being perfect. Then you get to recover and just take your turn back like you want it because you took the risk to do it, right? And your opponent decided to just willy-nilly keep throwing out buttons. This was the big fucking aha moment for the weekend for me. Was this. So when the game eventually comes out in 6 months, granted, as frame data is basically the same. This is still asterisk here, big ass asterisk. On anything changing.
I'll be honest. I don't.
The
think they
direction
can
is
change
already
that
going to get
data.
built. I don't know how much more they really can
can't.
change either. I'm not going to lie, but some moves can get tweaked. But I think the core mechanics how they are now,
it's
I don't
around
think
that
they can get shifted too
-3,
much.
and it's around that -3 and being able to parry in those weird situations of only having one frame. I think they can't change it virtually because if they do, then the game completely changes what style it's supposed to be using for these tools.
And also
Parry
all the
becomes
good,
point.
that people have enjoyed it, right? That you think they're gonna want to risk changing that if people are already like, "Yo, this is fucking great," and then go do something that might jeopardize that. You think they would take that risk? I'm not really sure they would either.
And I just want to
but
say
we don't
real
know.
quick. Yeah, true. Well, I just want to say with this being a thing, this also opens up overheads because overheads are plus. So like I think it's actually insane to think they thought this far through and they were like, how can we make all the tools combined together in like a melting pot where you have to use everything. You have to use everything. You can't just use one thing and think you can get away. Like we seen it in Street Fighter 5. You can just use crouch medium kick with Karen the whole time. And you're just like, oh, I'm just a god. I'm a god. I can just do crouch medium kick, confirm, okay, cool, all day. Now, you can't do that. You actually have to do a lot more. They even nerfed Chun-Li crouch medium kick because she had too much of a window to confirm.
Yeah, basically that's what went down. What about Gabe's been a little bit quiet though, but you had a chance to sit down and play with it. Like,
At a
How are you
friend's
feeling?
house.
Yeah, how were you feeling about it? I'm sorry, bro. You didn't get in. I'm fucking sorry.
They hate you.
What were you? How were you feeling on the game this weekend?
I felt like I was staring at my email the entire time, just wondering. And he was drinking. My bad.
Oh my god, I almost
So
missed it.
I sat down on Friday. I've had some, not time with. I had plenty of time at this house. By the way, shout out to Mr. Fu. We had a little. White
Oh, you went to
elephant party
Food's crib?
going.
Hey.
Yeah. So myself,
Yeah,
Ron,
yeah,
who
yeah.
also has it, and Fu, who actually had it. We were just going down. I was helping him out with different things that I've either talked to or saw what Chris G was doing with Jamie, and well, I never really. I don't think that the parry. So we're all talking about parry right now.
Yeah.
I don't like that it's 2 buttons. To be honest,
No.
no. I think for me on stick, it's like, why do I have to go like I'm. I don't
I know what you
how
mean.
to-
No, I know what you mean because I'm a
explain it.
third
Like,
strike
for a
player.
six-
I get it.
For a 6-button game to have that in the middle as like, and granted, I do use focus attack a hell of a lot in Street Fighter 4. So I mean,
You
it
can
is just
macro
something to
it.
get used to. You can. You are right, but I wouldn't know that. So then
Now you know.
yeah, so that's pretty funny what you have on the screen right there. Yeah, I only got a couple of matches in, so I mean, it's just again, I want to sit down with it. So there's that.
You just
But
want to play it.
There was, yeah, I wanted to play it. I want to play online with it.
Well, that brings up to the next thing. I mean, technically, you could. I think it's it's available somewhere. I don't know. I've heard. No, can't confirm nor deny. But let's bring it on to the next one. I mean, I think overall the beta was a success for everyone that just sat down and played it. The casuals, I think, I got to play someone that was on fucking. I meant to bring this up. I got to play someone that was on modern controls. I don't know about you guys. I
I ran into that a lot.
I
yes.
ran into a modern control Jamie, and I was like, I didn't realize. I was like, I didn't notice, but I was like, damn, my man's like fucking confirming everything. This is amazing. This guy's all right. Let me. And then I looked. I was like, you son of a bitch, you're on modern. That's why. And as soon as I figured that out, I was like, as soon as you whiff a button, you're getting smacked. Drive rush, smack, drive rush, get gripped. It's over.
It's all commitment.
I was like, God damn, I got hit hard. I was like, oh, it's a modern controller.
Apparently, it was
I got this.
defaulted to modern, wasn't it?
Yeah, it is. You have to like go in and
They
change that
switched
up.
it back, which is weird. They actually switched it back for anybody who was part of the original beta too.
Yep. So with that, I mean, let's get into kind of like the other half of how that week ended up happening. So we had a bunch of tournaments that went down. I think what was it?
did
TNS
watch a lot
had
of
one.
them,
TNS had
Capcom,
one of them.
Sponsored one.
Li Joe had theirs. There was like another one that went down. I just can't
DNS,
remember.
Li Joe, Bunch,
I mean,
Pizza Time, whatever.
Oh my god!
But I felt like the
Can't
two
remember
main
what's
was the Li Joe and TNS one.
Yeah. Those are
TNS
kind
one
of like,
being the biggest one on Sunday. So.
yeah. Those. Really, I thought the Li Joe was bigger on Sunday.
Well, I mean, keep in mind, TNS was being, I believe, supported by Capcom for that one, like 100%.
What?
So I'm not too sure, but
Oh, I
thought they
don't think
were.
so, dude.
Even if they weren't, I mean, it's TNS, usually really big. You know, everybody was there. Dual Kevin, Joker, more people. You know, Punk,
yeah.
obviously.
So
But,
I sat down and watched the Li Joe one, and that was when it was right before the Li Joe one. I'm trying to remember what turn because Chris T won an initial tournament. I think he won
The
TNS.
Casa Bunch.
The Casa Bunch. Thank
Yeah,
you.
Pizza
Thank
Party.
you.
Yeah,
Yes,
I said that.
he won that one. Sorry. He won that one. And then the Li Joe event was either later that night or it was the next day.
I have
Because that had to be Saturday.
And
That had to
yeah,
probably be
that
Saturday.
had been Saturday because then, Sunday was definitely Li Joe's
All
one.
TNS.
And that one was, there was already getting, there was already mass scrutinization as to what went down. Like entering the beta tournament is not a big deal. When you're not known, but I mean, listen, the beta it went to PC, right? It went to PC, and a crack happened. It's just the nature of the fucking internet. I have been around this for so long that I'm like, it's not a surprise. You throw out the data somewhere. Capcom did that. They did it for the first beta. If you can get a copy of the files, you think someone's not going to reverse engineer it. They will. It's piracy 101, bro. It's just how it goes. there's been like a lot of all this talk on Twitter. It's like, oh, it's the TO's fault. It's Capcom's fault. They made they made the game too easy to crack. Which I'm just like, I'm blown away by that statement alone. But it was a risk. It was a risk they had to take. And also, a lot of people, which even we confirmed it on our last episode before even the beta went, we're like, oh, why Capcom not giving us any characters? And me and Mezzo were like, we fucking know why. We really know why they're not giving us anything, because they don't want that data out there, right? But they took the risk. Yes, it went to PC. Will that kill PC betas in the future? I don't know. Motherfucker said that about Street Fighter 5. Street Fighter 5 did the same thing. Look, we got a 6 beta on PC anyway, so it's like, fucking who cares? They took that risk. That was a business decision for them to do that. They could have not, but they risk alienating, a potential other market of people that could get in and play, right? Like, they want the more people to experience it. They want to get that data in. It's very valuable to them. So the beta got cracked. And known people, players, streamers, and your Joe Blows have it and have kept playing it. They haven't really stopped playing it. And that raised some eyebrows when you then come to, a tournament, the Beta 2, and in that tournament, full well known that you have been grinding this game and a lot of money is in it, to then still take advantage of that and compete. Mind you, so what we're talking about is fucking Chris T, because Chris T was like, getting hawked on that. Like, Punk came out on it, then Punk. There was thousands of people watching. So when someone says something, people are just gonna start spreading around, like getting that information out there. Like, yo, he shouldn't have won that. Then it becomes a discussion. Like it's like having the testers, right, for like MKX and shit, like playing in tournament, right? Remember that? Like when there were known testers that were out and about in the community.
MCI.
It's like you can't fucking do that. Like you can't enter. That's like in your clause. There's two sides to it. One, there's a morality side to it, right? Should you? There's a lot of money. It was like, what, $2,500 or something like that in the pot just for Matcherino for L.I. Joe's fucking tournament?
I put them in the DMs, yeah.
Oh, okay. It was a lot of guap.
$2,500 for L.I. Joe's tournament. For can opener, that was $530. And then $804 for Casa Bunch. But I don't even know what was TNS's just as much or around there, because I didn't see if TNS did a Matcherino. But I mean, I'm just gonna say this right off the bat. Personally, nobody's. I mean, if we have to look at 134, okay. If we have to finally look at every little nuance, then we have to look at disclaimer. We have to look at all those things. Did they break any rules going into it? Not necessarily, because they're like, in my opinion,
there was no restriction.
Beta 2 had its own rules. I can see if they were still like if it was like the same game, but it kind of technically isn't, because they patched it to some degree.
Slightly.
So
it's more or less the same.
That's what I'm saying. Tomatoes. But at the end of the day, these are competitors that aren't under Capcom's umbrella. And unless they were testing the game beforehand, that would be a different story.
They take that risk, right? Like Christy took that risk. If the footage is out there and he's known and he's gone to tournaments and played, like, hey, if you want to put yourself on Capcom's radar,